When you talk about Christopher Nolan movies, what usually comes up is Memento, Batman, Inception, Prestige, etc., etc. But the one movie I almost never hear anyone talk about is Insomnia. And that is a shame because to me it is one of his best, but it's so often overlooked. And I understand why that is. You know, the big draw of Nolan movies is the high concept and spectacle, and while I've enjoyed most of his films, they usually just don't resonate with me on an emotional level, at least not nearly as much as they should. The focus seems to be on the scope and concept and not on creating compelling characters. This leads to the films getting bogged down in clunky, exposition-filled dialogue. I'm not saying that exposition is bad. You know, every movie needs exposition or else the audience will know what the hell is going on, but the problem lies in how it's being delivered to you. Most of the time it's just the characters explaining the plot to each other, and the plot and concept almost seems separate from the story arcs. Instead of using the premise to explore the characters' stories in a unique way, the characters are used as vehicles to explore the premise, and that takes away a lot of the emotional impact for me. But Insomnia doesn't really have those problems, because there's not much to explain. I mean, who doesn't know what Insomnia is? I sure as hell do.
You see this alien? This alien haunts my dreams. I haven't slept in 4 days.
Okay.
It's a relatively simple plot. Will Dormer, played by Al Pacino, is a detective with a mysteriously shady past who's sent to Alaska to investigate the murder of a teenage girl, and this eventually leads to a battle of wits between him and a creepy-ass child killer. Early on, Dormer, to avoid spoilers here, fucks up pretty badly and tries to hide it and cover his tracks, and this adds a tremendous element of tension to an already suspenseful movie. So he has trouble sleeping to begin with, and his mistake is not helping with that. Plus, he's in Alaska during the months where the sun does not fully set, so he's not sleeping at all, and we get the rest of the story through the lens of an extremely exhausted and troubled, insomnia-ridden man. And this is a plot point that's directly tied to the main character, so you have a reason to be invested in every aspect of the story. Also, because of the simple plot, a detective, criminal, cat and mouse story, and a smaller scale, there's a greater emphasis placed on character and emotion, which allows the fantastic lead performances to shine through. Robin Williams really shows off his range here in a very dark and dramatic role that he absolutely crushes, and this is a bright spot in a relatively weak period for Pacino's career. You know, it's around the time where he became notorious for overreacting and screaming at everything.
I know my fucking name, you piece of shit!
But his character here is worn down and sleep deprived, which suppresses that tendency and makes for a really subtle and nuanced performance. Both actors have really good chemistry, so the back and forth is always compelling, and in this case the performances are complemented by the filmmaking. Everything ties together and flows naturally. What the characters are feeling is accentuated by the camera work and editing. The more exhausted Dormer gets, the more trippy and surreal the editing becomes, with quick flashes and jump cuts, but it never feels gimmicky. It's all there to serve the story. There were no random information dumps that took me out of the movie. As soon as I got invested, it held my attention the entire time. I would expand on this, but I don't want to spoil anything, because if you haven't seen Insomnia, it is definitely not a Nolan movie you should skip over. I get why you might prefer his other movies. The innovation, scope, and even just the logistics of shooting some of those more complicated sequences is nothing short of amazing. And Insomnia doesn't really have all that. There's no mind-blowing concept or larger-than-life set pieces, but I've always preferred more personal, character-driven stories, and that's why Insomnia is my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. Or, who knows, maybe I'm just biased because Pacino's in it.
Yeah.
So, your new movie Tenet is coming out this week, and I'm curious, what was the motivation behind this film? Well, you see, I've always wanted to crash a plane into a building. Oh, that's it? That's the whole point of the movie? It's a really big plane. Oh, quite large, in fact. Like, massive. Right, okay, but like, how about the inversion concept? What can you tell us about that? Ah, yes, in Tenet. Time randomly moves forward and backward, so the characters are fighting in reverse. Okay, but like, what is the point? Inversion!